Hello and welcome to episode 12 of DFO Rundown Insider Edition. Irfaan and Gaffar here in Vancouver. That's David Pagnotta in Toronto. And yes, David, a dozen episodes presented by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And boy, do we have a doozy for you. Islanders general manager Mathieu Darche will stop by. We ask him a lot of things. Updates on Bo Horvat. What's his status for the Islanders and the Olympics, obviously talking about number 48, one of the most electrifying players in the National Hockey League right now, Matthew Schaefer, cap, all sorts of things. So really looking forward to that conversation with Mathieu Darche. But Dave, let's start with what we have right now going on in the National Hockey League. And I want to begin with the Winnipeg Jets. And they are the first team in NHL history to win the President's Trophy and be in dead last that same year. So things are not going so swell over in Winnipeg. Sometimes players are starting to tune coaches out when things start to go bad, and it seems like that's kind of the way in Winnipeg. Do you foresee a coaching change coming? Maybe, maybe not, but there has to be a player change coming at some point, no?
I think there's going to be change in some capacity with the Jets, Irf. And you're right. I mean, this has not gone anywhere near where the Jets expected this season to go. You can use the Hellebuck injury as an excuse to a certain point, but even with him back in the lineup, they've continued to struggle. They can't score. They've had lapses defensively. It's been an overall kind of burnout by this club. And there are questions about Scott Arniel's future in Winnipeg. There's been some chatter around the team about maybe, like you said, maybe they are starting to tune him out because frustrations are boiling over, and that's never a good sign. Now, he's got a few years left on his contract. He signed a pretty good deal when he joined that club, so they have to take that into consideration. But I think it's more so geared towards the player side. And Kevin Cheveldayoff, the GM, looking for secondary scoring, trying to add some punch to that lineup. It's not easy to do. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near where they were the last couple of years, where they spent resources and draft picks and prospects, to bring in, guys on expiring deals, rental type players. I don't see that. Like, they brought in, Tanev last year. I don't see that happening this year. If they're going to add, they're going to want to bring in somebody who's got some term and is going to be controllable, especially for that second line. That's definitely what they want to improve on. The interesting thing is what we're starting to hear about Luke Schenn, who just played his 1100th game with the Jets last night. I'm curious. I don't know if that'll be his last with the Jets, but I don't know how much more runway there is if things continue status quo. There is some word that we've been given that Luke Schenn wouldn't mind a change of scenery. He would be open to a move. I don't know if that relates to how the team is performing, and he's been scratched a few times. I'm sure it all correlates. But the latest that we've got on Luke Schenn is he hasn't asked for a trade, but he is open to a change of scenery, and that's something that the Jets are monitoring now.
Big physical, mean player would help a lot of Stanley Cup contending teams. I'm very sure also a Cup champion in his own right, Luke Schenn. Matthew Tkachuk. You saw him at the Winter Classic, and you're seeing him everywhere now, getting back on the ice in Toronto at the Hall of Fame, saying how juiced he is for the Olympics and this and that. What's his status, and what are the Florida Panthers going to do here once Matthew Tkachuk gets activated on the roster? What are they going to do with the cap space that they have left over with respect to some of the other injuries that they have going on?
Yeah, this one's going to be interesting. So he's on the road trip right now. He was in Toronto yesterday with the team. He's been skating. He said he's probably a few games away. So they're on a 6-game road trip. He's probably going to get in around my guess is around game 5, something in that range. Maybe it's 4. We'll see. But I'm guessing 5 of this road trip. So he's still a few games away from getting back into it. He wants to get reacclimated, normalized again to pregame, to training, to practice while traveling. So he's almost there, but you're right. When he comes back, their cap situation gets shifted quite significantly. I think they've got, when he's back, they're sitting at around 17,000 in cap space, something around that, with him back in the lineup. Now they've got a bunch of guys they've called up that they could send down. They can create upwards of $2 to $3 million in additional cap space, even with Alex Barkov on LTIR. Now the interesting thing is we're starting to hear from other teams that they're poking around a little bit, not necessarily trying to make a move immediately, but it certainly sounds like Bill Zito and his staff are trying to comb the market to see what could potentially be out there from a depth perspective that they could possibly do ahead of the trade deadline. I think they're going to wait. I don't know if anything's imminent. I don't get that sense now, but it wouldn't surprise me if they make some type of depth addition, perhaps on the blue line or in the bottom six moving forward. We all know about the cap and how everything has changed for playoffs. You've got to be cap compliant. Whatever roster you ice, lineup you ice in a game has to be cap compliant. And there is talk that Barkov, who was supposed to be expected to be out originally until conference final time, maybe he pushes that to the second round, but that we're still far off on that one. But Florida wouldn't surprise me at all if they look to make some depth additions later on in the season, at least one before the trade deadline.
All right, very quickly before we get to Mathieu Darche, the Philadelphia Flyers and Trevor Zegras, where are they at currently?
So they've had some discussions and gone back and forth. We obviously know they got Christian Dvorak locked in to a 5-year extension. So Zegras' camp and Danny Briere, the GM of the Philadelphia Flyers, they've gone back and forth a little bit this season, but nothing is imminent as of now. I'm told nothing is close. They're still going to continue to have conversations and go back and forth. They've started the process of maybe escalating the frequency of the discussions, but nothing yet. But an open line of communication. This isn't a negative. This is just the update on his situation. The other thing that's interesting now, and Anthony DeMarco had this the other day, Rasmus Ristolainen is available per se. They're not actively shopping him, but they're willing to listen on him. And it sounds like if they can get a deal that is similar to what Toronto paid for Brandon Carlo last season ahead of the trade deadline, that's something that they would consider. So you're looking at an NHL-ready player, a first-round pick, and potentially another asset to go back, depending on the overall value of the player. So that's just something to keep tabs on. I think this is more so Philly just being, in a position because there aren't that many sellers to say, hey, we've got a guy that we're willing to listen on, but you got to make it worth our while. And that's kind of where they sit with Risto right now.
Some great stuff as always, Dave. We'll get to a little bit more after, especially I want to get to something that you need to get off your chest. So we'll do that a little bit later on, but let's get to our interview with Mathieu Darche. Pleased to be welcomed by the general manager of the New York Islanders, Mathieu Darche. Matthew, thank you so much for doing this. Before we get to this season, I want to start with you a little bit. You come in as a first-time general manager, executive vice president in May of last year. And what's this transition been like for you in the sense of this role? And just how much have you enjoyed it on Long Island so far this year?
Well, it's been great. It's a great place to live. I mean, I'm from Montreal. My two kids, my two boys are in college in Montreal at McGill's. So we get closer to them. But just the organization's been outstanding from ownership. And, it's a great place to live, awesome building. And, one thing I can't take credit for is for winning the lottery and getting that player that kind of changed our franchise also. So it's so far so good, but there's still a lot of work to be done. We're in a good position right now, but it's so tight in the East that you win 2, you're in first place. You lose 2, you might be out of the playoffs. So you have to keep pace with everybody else.
Obviously, you mentioned winning the lottery playing a big factor. You guys made a big trade right at the draft, moving out Noah Dobson, bringing in the 2 picks and Heineman as well. Obviously, he's having a great season. Schaefer's having a great season. When you started to build your plan and map out your plan, just take us through, and I know you've touched on this a few times with others, but just if you could reiterate part of that thought process going into the season and what the mindset was in terms of mapping out how this team was going to look to start the season.
Well, first of all, when you come in, other teams, obviously I prepared for this interview and, you study the team, but until you're there's so many things that you find out. So I figured the first year, I didn't think that team was a bottom dweller last year, injuries and all that. And I feel like we needed some tweaks and a few culture adjustments, maybe. But when you come in and you have Bo Horvat, Matt Barzal, and JG Pajot and guys like that as your 3 centermen, and then Talek Kulak and now getting Schaefer. Did we think Schaefer would be that good that early? Probably not. If I'm being honest, it's funny. I spent the summer telling his agent, let's be open-minded here. He's played 17 games last year, and then let's see where it is. Let's start with the 9 games. Then by game 3, my coaches start playing him 26 minutes a game. So that changed pretty quickly. His junior GM wasn't too surprised when I called him after his 7th game. I didn't wait for 9. I said, yeah, he's not going back. And they didn't sound too surprised when I called them. So, and, part for me was evaluation on the players, on the staff, on everything. And we might have started 0-3, but actually we weren't playing bad. We were, just bad timing and maybe making the mistake at the wrong time. And then we just grew from there after we won the first game. Overall, we've been playing pretty well. Can we play better? Of course. Our goaltending has been outstanding. Both Sorokin and Riddick have been great for us. So, and for me was just, let's see what we have. And the Noah Gobson thing, he's a real good player. I had decided a certain amount that I wanted to go, and we couldn't agree on a contract. And it's funny because people always think when you trade a player like that, there's animosity. And it was a great conversation with Noah, with the agent. There was never any animosity. We just didn't see the same thing on a contract. And instead of let's do what's best for both of us. And Montreal got what they wanted. I felt I got what I wanted. So, people always think someone has to win a trade. It's okay if it's a win-win. I'm sure Montreal is very happy with Noah. I'm happy what I got. Neil Heineman has been great. Our 2 prospects, they were both at World Juniors. I'm excited to have them, and we move forward. And obviously having Schaefer come in kind of compensates a little bit for Noah leaving, and now we got going, and hopefully we it's crazy that we're only halfway through the season, so there's still a lot of hockey to be played.
You mentioned halfway through the season, and obviously a lot of words that we use when talking about team sports is culture and identity and the way that you want to play versus coaching want to play. But halfway through the season, you're in a pretty good position right now. Like you mentioned, the East is so tight, especially when it comes to the playoff race. Have you noticed a change in identity from day one to now, or the system, or the way you want to play, or is it kind of like an everyday process of getting better?
Oh, you always want to get better every day. I always say that the day you stop trying to improve is the day you start regressing. So I think Patrick and I are really on the same page how we want to play. I think from the start, our fans and people around the league, they saw we're a lot more up-tempo maybe than we used to be. We brought in players that skate a bit more, from Max Chavanoff and Jonathan Drouin and even Emil Heineman, these guys that came in, and you add the skating of Matthew Schaefer. So I think we're a pretty fast team. We have work to do at the start, especially defensively, yes. But then, our goalies have played great. So I think we played differently and not necessarily for that it was bad before, just we brought different personnel to play the style of hockey that Patrick and I want to play.
One thing we've noticed this season is obviously there's there've been changes to the organization. You're coming in, you've been brought in as well. But the other thing that we've noticed on kind of the unveiling of the curtain a little bit and giving fans a little bit of taste of what's going on in the room, and especially utilizing social media to do it. How important was that for you to allow fans to have a little bit of an insight as to what's going on within the room and within the organization?
Well, at the end of the day, we're in the entertainment business, right? We let's give our fans some access. Maybe it's I studied marketing in college, so maybe it's part of my background. And I worked in the business world as in sales and marketing before I joined Julian in Tampa. So we're in the New York market too. So there's a lot of competition for the eyes of and the discretionary spending of our fans. You have 2 football teams, 2 baseball teams, you have basketball teams, 3 hockey teams, you have Broadway, you have, the U.S. Open. There's so many things in New York. So, you got to promote yourself. We want to bring people in the building. And I think last night was our actually 7th consecutive sellout. We've had a few early in the year. Then there's always, there's times of the year, especially in the U.S. when, the baseball playoffs are there, and NFL obviously takes a lot of room. So I think that to me, it's just part of a franchise. That's you look at most teams do it now. Think about it. In Canada, they do it a lot. It's like in Canada, you need to sell hockey. Everybody loves hockey in Canada, but teams still do it. So I think we had to do it. Yeah. We have to show our product, show some of our players' personalities also. So I think we've moved in the right direction in that aspect.
I'll tell you what, 48's appointment viewing for you guys. So I think you're pretty good on the entertainment aspect right now when it comes to the New York Islanders. But I wanted to ask you about your head coach in Patrick Roy, just a few years removed from coaching junior. And my question is in a sense of the relationship when it comes to young players. You know, I'm sure being 18 when you were playing is a little bit different than being 18 when a guy like Bo Horvat was playing or a guy like now in Matthew Schaefer. So when you look at the relationship of Patrick Roy, and you mentioned that, you know, your coach was playing this kid 26 minutes a night, just 3 games into this season, how nice is it to have a guy that's not that far removed from the junior game to understand kind of teenagers' tendencies and kind of just what makes them tick now?
Well, first of all, when I was 18, I was playing in prep schools, so I was far from being in the NHL. Matthew is so like you know what, Patrick? When I got the job here, I really thought like, because we're French Canadian, I didn't know Patrick. The only time I had spoken to Patrick was last year in Tampa. He was walking towards his bus. I was walking towards my car, and obviously I knew who he was. He knew who I was because I played in Montreal, and so we chatted for 5 minutes, but nothing. So when I got the job, and I went to Montreal, we met for like 5 hours 2 days after I got named, and I decided I wanted to work with him. And Patrick is passionate about hockey. First of all, you know, like we all know. He's financially independent, but he's still coached for 14, 15 years in junior riding the bus. So he's not doing it for the money. He's doing it because he's passionate. He wants to win. And what I like about him is he's not about, well, you know, we can't play the young guy because let's make sure we play the older guys. Let's bring it. Like, he doesn't care. He wants to win. So if the young guy, look at Cal Ritchie, he's getting ice time. He's 20 years old. And like, I won't lie to you, after that first 26-minute game, I go, guys, maybe we don't need to play him 26 minutes. You know, maybe we can come back a few minutes. But then, and that was just 3 games in, but then every game, he helped us win. I mean, you saw, he had his homecoming for Hockey Night in Canada this last Saturday, and it was a nice one. So that's one thing with Patrick. He wants to win. He's passionate. Whoever is going to help us win is going to play. He's not worried that they can make mistakes. They don't end up on the bench. Like, that's how you learn. So, and then luckily for us, they haven't made too many. They make some, of course. Like, veteran players make some mistakes. So that I commend Patrick on that. He's not afraid to play the young guys if they're the ones that are going to help you win games.
As you continue to plan and map things out, the scope of the league has changed a little bit in terms of its finances. The revenues are never higher. We've got cap projections going into multiple years. How has that? And how's the increase in revenue and both the notion that, okay, we've got the projected cap next year and the year after, how does that modify or how has that evolved your thought process in terms of planning, obviously not just now, but also moving forward with the organization?
Well, first of all, I think this year you see it already. There's less teams that are, and trust me, from where I came from, we were tight against the cap every single year in Tampa. I think you have less teams. Yeah, teams are tight on the cap, but not as it used to be when we went 3 straight years at 81.5 million cap. Like, every team was tight. I mean, I don't know, in Tampa, we played a couple of games short because we have no cap space to call up someone, which is not the case right now. I'm fortunate. Ownership here is giving me the resources to do what I need to do to help this team win. And, you know, I can go to the cap if I need to. Doesn't mean that if you don't have the player, if you have the money and you don't have the player to fill that money, you're not just going to spend the money because you have it. You have to spend it wisely. But luckily for me, I got ownership is supportive and giving me the resources to do what I need to do to help this team become a winner.
How much of the standings change the way you think that teams are going to operate here? I know we have the Olympic break coming up and then the NHL trade deadline after. There's the roster freeze, but with the standings as tight as the way they are, just speaking from, you know, an Islanders point of view, how much has that changed the way that you look at it overall, big picture?
Well, it's everybody has a chance to be in right now. Like, I remember, like, early in December, we won a game in the afternoon. So for a few hours, we were first place in the conference. Then someone went out and I ended up second. And during the next 6 days, all we did is lose 2 games. And after losing those 2 games, we were in 8th spot, which is crazy when you think of it. All you did is lose 2 games in a row in regulation, and you went from first in the conference to the second wild card. So it shows you how tight it is. So I don't know if it's more quiet because of that, because every team say, hey, you've seen a few teams like Buffalo went on a 10-game run. Tampa's on an 8-game run right now. You win 4 or 5 in a row, and then boom, you shoot all the way up, and you have a bad stretch, you might be out. So I think there's still a lot of teams and myself included. And you right now we're in a good position with the roster we have. Let's keep going. And you obviously always kicking tires. Every day I'm going to try to improve the team. So you have conversations, and if something makes sense, you do it. But I feel everybody's in the same position a bit. Well, let's see where it goes. Let's see where the next few weeks take us until the Olympic break. And because after the Olympic break, we have a week before the deadline. So whether things will happen before or after. And, I don't have a crystal ball, and I can't tell you, is it going to be busy? Is it not going to be busy? There's obviously the new playoff rule with the cap in the playoffs and things like that. Like, how is it going to affect the trade deadline? I don't know yet. I know I kick tires. I call, every GM does that. That's your job. You call other teams and you see what they're looking at. What you tell them things that you might be looking at, and if there's a fit, there's a fit.
Does the Olympic break, though, does that give, for guys that perhaps might not be going to the Olympics, does that give them an opportunity to ease in a little bit better into their new surroundings if you or another team or whomever makes a move to bring somebody in? Because you've got that 2-3 week window where you've got that gap outside of vacation time. It allows guys to get acclimated to their new surroundings a little bit more calmly than right after a trade. Do you think that, whether it's your thought process or others around the league, that they're thinking, well, maybe if we can do something before, it gives guys a little easier time to transition in? Does that factor in?
Yeah, that's a very good point, because I've seen it from where I came from. When guys come in, you trade them the next day. They come in the first time they put their skates with you in a game, or a morning skate in a game. So, yes, that break, unless they all go on vacation together and have some team bonding and on the beach somewhere. But even after the kind of break, I think by the 17th, we can start practicing again, and we don't play till the 25th. No. So there's 8-9 days or 7 to 9 days of practice that, you can try a few things, and, you're at home and guys can settle in a new place. So yes, it could be a factor for sure. And is it something I'm thinking about? Yes. Because like I mentioned earlier, there's only 1 week till the trade deadline after everybody comes back, or give or take a few days, like the 8 days. So it definitely can help for sure.
Matthew, just a few more from us before we let you go. I know you're busy. Do you have an update on Bo and just kind of his status? I know there was a reevaluation after a week, but how's he doing?
He's doing good. He skated a few times already, so we're just taking it day by day, and he's going to see doctors again in the next day or so as we go on the road here. So I don't expect it to be an issue before I expect him to be back before the Olympics, so I don't expect it to be an issue. And never mind the Olympics, I want him in the lineup for the New York Islanders. So, it's nothing too serious. So hopefully he's back. I mean, he won't be back the next couple of games, but hopefully sometime after that. So we'll see how he progresses. Sometimes any injury, sometimes guys, you think it's going to take 3 weeks, and then it takes a week, and sometimes you think it's going to take a week and it takes 5 weeks, which I don't think that's the case with both. But it's only been a week now that he had that injury. So we'll take it day by day. And but like I said, he's at the rink every day. He's doing rehab. He's skated a bunch of times on his own already. So it shouldn't be too concerning.
We've been here, and I've done this whole interview with you, and I haven't even asked you straight up about Matthew Schaefer, because what we see is what we get so far. But when you look at number 48 on your team, as electrifying as he is, I guess my question to you is, tell us something that we don't know about this young man.
Something we don't know. He raids Matt Martin's closet every day. Go on the road, and Marty's wife actually packs his bag with him, and he just ends up getting stuff out of the closet. No, but the kid's been outstanding. Like he's, like sometimes you have young guys that come in and big personality, and sometimes guys can be like, our players absolutely love him. Like, and you see when something happens to him on the ice, everybody jumps in, and he's been a breath of fresh air. Like he's got enthusiasm. He's smiling every day. I mean, life is pretty good. He's 18 years old, and he is getting shout outs from Tom Brady online, and I'm sure he's living the dream. But what's great with and Matt's the one that made the comment. Like he's a pro. He's serious, but when he's home, he's still a kid at heart. Like he doesn't take everything too seriously. Like as far as like he's so focused. If he has a tougher game, he's not at home. Freaking out. Like he's still a kid, which is great to see when he's at the rink, and he's very, very professional in his approach. He works hard, but he's able to just be a young man and, just take it all in. And he was raised the right way by his father and his mom, and his dad's been around. They're great people. He's very humble. He's fit in great with our team. And like I said, we're very happy to have him on the ice. So it's, he makes us a better team. That's for sure.
He's got a bunch of leaders to help him along, even outside of the Martin household. But two guys specifically, Anders Lee, J.J. Pagnotta, are on expiring contracts. Any discussion there yet, or is there a plan to tackle that at some point this season?
No, the two players when the season started say, let's see where we're going. So I'm sure we'll look at it down the line, but they understand where we were. I knew I was evaluating the team, and they've both played really well for us this year. So they're important veterans. You're talking about good veterans with Matthew and Cal Ritchie. Those guys are outstanding professional, outstanding people, Anders and JG, and even a lot of other good leaders, even if the contracts aren't expired. But what's great is they understood where I was when the season started, and they've played great. So by playing great, they just put themselves in a good position. So that was the plan from the start. I communicated that with them, and we keep going. We keep pushing along in the season.
Last one for me, and probably here because we know we've taken up a lot of your time. We really appreciate it. You guys have the All-Star game next year. The All-Star game comes back in 2027. Has all the planning is that starting now? How's that looking on your end?
Well, luckily for me, I got enough on my plate, so that's the business side that's gonna run that. But I mean, I don't know if you guys have been to a UBS Arena. It's one of the nicest arenas in the league.
Gorgeous.
It's outstanding. Through the holidays, we had friends from Montreal. Some of my kids' friends coming with them from college, and some of our friends that came. I always take them at UBS. They're so impressed. Like it's second to none as a building. So it's going to be a great.
The Pro Shop is incredible.
The Pro Shop, the retail store is, looks like a Polo Ralph Lauren. Like it's a very different than everybody. Then honestly, it's very different than most buildings. It's they have a more fashion view of it too. There's items that you won't see in most team stores. So it's. I think it's going to be a great event for our team, for our community, for the area. So and on top of it, and probably the best or one of the best buildings in the NHL.
Matthew, thank you so much for this. We really appreciate you taking the time, and good luck the rest of the way.
All right, thanks for having me, guys.
It's always interesting when you get to talk to a GM that's as open and as honest as Mathieu Darche, especially when it comes to his team, what he wants to do, what he thinks they can do, the deadline, the cap, all sorts of stuff. So great interview there. Thank you to Islanders PR for making that happen. But Dave, what stood out to you most in that interview?
Honestly, just the direction of this team and how he familiated himself with the club and pretty early, pretty quickly. And then wasn't afraid to go big and bold right away. And just having an understanding that this is going to be what's best for the team. And mentioning like the Dobson trade, just not having any animosity towards that situation by moving him out. And then having an understanding with his players like Pagnotta and Lee that, hey, we'll get to your contract stuff later. Let's focus on the season. Let me get acclimated and let me just figure out what the proper direction is and we'll get there. And everybody just being fully understanding. I think the level of transparency that he's got with his team and with his players is to me very impressive.
Yeah, and I think that, the guy that takes over the job in May flies immediately to Montreal, has a 5-hour meeting with his head coach, knows that he wants to retain his head coach and go the direction that they did. And obviously, good things are happening for the New York Islanders now. All right, before we wrap this up, what do you want to get off your chest here, Dave?
Well, we know that Utah, by the time this goes out, Utah's making a big announcement later this afternoon. And that's great. That's nice to see. And they've got something in the works there. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. By the time you watch this, they may have already announced it. But big stuff going on in Utah off the ice. And I'm just waiting for big stuff to happen on the ice. This team is still fluttering with wild card contention, but they remain a team that I look at as a team that would love to go and make a big splash. And I'll give you the disclaimer, it may happen in the offseason kind of thing, but I think they're aggressive enough where we could see something happen in season. And I'm curious to see what Bill Armstrong pulls off. He's not afraid to make it, to make a big move. He's got the support of ownership to spend big, and they'd love to make some type of big fish acquisition, a big splash. So I'm just waiting to see when that happens. That's something that I guess I'm looking at Utah outside of what they got coming today.
All right, Dave, I love it. Let's get to our line of the day presented by Bet365, and we're going to go to the schedule on Saturday. The Vancouver Canucks and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Dave, you going to the game?
I will be there. Yep.
All right. Well, because you're in attendance, let's give it a shootout. Over 6.5 goals between the Vancouver Canucks and the Toronto Maple Leafs. I don't know what entirely sure we're going to expect from both of those teams, but it's always fun when Vancouver plays Toronto. The building will be buzzing, I'm sure, in Toronto. So whatever you bet, it's never ordinary. You bet 365. Download the app, get on the game, use code NATION. Bet 365 must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. David, this episode was a pleasure. It was great to get Mathieu Darche on, and looking forward to next week, buddy.
Me too, man. Me too. And thank you for the late exit for Saturday's game. Appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely. No problem at all. And if you don't know, now you know. You can get this episode every Wednesday here on Daily Faceoff. So make sure you tune in, like, and subscribe.
Hey, hockey fans, if you enjoyed that video, then make sure you hit the subscribe button right here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. We have you covered for everything you need. Exclusive interviews on The Sheet with Jeff Merrick, all the latest hockey news on Daily Faceoff Live, and you can always get your morning started with Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohn on Morning Cup of Hockey. Don't miss a minute. Hit that subscribe button.